Welcome back to the Leading Detection podcast. And today we're joined by Chaitanya. Chaitanya, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. It's good to be on the podcast.
Yeah, great to dive into quite an interesting topic at the moment. We're going to talk about KYB and how it seems a little bit messy at the moment. So, from your perspective, why are we talking about that today? Why is it important to bring it up?
Yeah. So, first of all, if you look for KYB and search for the term in the US, you'll actually see KYB struts. And there's literally no mention of business verification versus onboarding. So,
Mhm.
first of all, the term itself is pretty new. People used to call it corporate KYC, something else in the past. And the reason was KYC, if you think, has been revolutionized 10 years. You had these amazing players do front, back, and selfie, like document front, document back, and selfie, the deep fake detection, the liveness detection. Obviously, there's technology improvements in all of those, but the
Mhm.
fundamental problem was solved by building a common SDK. KYB, on the other hand, is still manual. So we realized, okay, why is this still manual? The biggest challenge is data is scattered across different domains. It's on the websites, it's on the documents, it's deep buried in some questionnaire. And with AI and with data access to these databases, now is the time to revolutionize it. So that's why I think KYB was a hot mess till date, but I think now is the time that we can actually revolutionize this space and automate it.
It's crazy. So tell us a little bit more to set the scene, set the context. So it sounds like the kind of companies have usually just kind of duct tape process and information together, just hoping that they get some kind of picture on an organization.
Absolutely. In fact, if you talk to every organization, they have a different way of doing KYB. Payments company in the same space, two different companies have two different complete approaches on KYB. Some of them are doing EDD or enhanced due diligence on every single business, and some of them are doing a very light KYB check. So, number one, I think standards are not set in the industry for this particular vertical. Number two, there hasn't been much awareness. If you also think about it, like the creator economy, the explosion of business itself has led to the creation of thousands upon thousands of companies every single week.
Mm.
Like 5 years ago, there were not these many companies in the first place. I'm assuming, Matt, you must be having your own LLC or some sort of a business which is separate than yourselves. Like 5 years ago, you did not have to do that. So explosion of business itself, that's number one that you have to do. Then buy now, pay later companies. There's a lot of this innovation happening in the business space that requires real time KYB. So far, it
Yeah.
was usually the big banks, which would take their sweet 1 week to verify you.
Is there anything that's standardized across the industry? Is there anything that two businesses do the same?
Um, yes, I definitely think there is some standardization. Number one is they do a verification against a government database in whatever country they are. Let's say if it's the US, it's going to be the Secretary of State's database. If it's the
Yeah.
UK, it's the company's house database. So they do that check. They do also a UBO check, but it depends. Again, it's not standardized that well. Some companies do 10% or more, some do 25% or more. So it depends again on the country slash the company as well. One more thing which standardizes, they want to do an address proof verification. Like, hey, does this company actually exist in that region or not? They might
Mm.
not do it that thoroughly, but at least they collect some documents. So those kinds of checks are there today.
But are they standardized, or is that just kind of best practice?
It's a best practice. There's no standard across it.
Right. So if you were to write this blog post and you were like, right, this is the ultimate KYB handbook. These are the three things that we need to standardize in every country. What would your top three be?
Um, I think the first one would be verification of a business against an authoritative database,
Yeah.
which would be a government database or a credit bureau sometimes in the country.
Hmm.
The second thing would be verification of absolute owners of the company,
Yeah.
not the directors. Let's say if it's a company, let's say Google, owned by Alphabet, owned by someone else. So you want to find who that someone else is,
Right.
not just the immediate owner. So the ultimate beneficial owner, the second one. And the third one, I think, is verification of their initial documents at least. And I would start with the two most important one, incorporation certificate and the proof of address. Those
Okay.
two are the documents I would say. So at least if we standardize these three things, Compliance is solved. I don't think risk and fraud are solved, but the compliance problem is somewhat solved.
Okay. And when this goes cross-border,
Hmm.
so companies are truly international now, you're starting to work with a new company abroad. How's the modern system, or how's that failing cross-border businesses?
It's broken. I'm going to be honest. And we are seeing it firsthand on a daily basis. At AI Press today, we have close to 150 customers. Like usually companies have knowledge of how, let's say they are from US, they know how to verify companies in the US. But even if you ask about Canada, Mexico, any other country, they're like, oh, please AI Price, like, help us figure
Mm.
out how to do KYB in those countries. I feel there is lack of knowledge as well in terms of how to verify a company in a country. So if I'm a chief compliance officer of, let's say, a global payments company, there is no resource I can look up today to say, hey, here's a playbook for each of these countries. Let's go build it. You essentially talk to your friends in those countries and understand, hey, how are you doing it? That's how it's being built. So very broken. If I'm a global company, standards are different for different regions also. If I'm in LATAM, I do a different set of KYB. And if I'm in Europe, it's completely different. Data access is also completely different in the first place. European Union databases are usually more active in maintaining and updating. In the US, there's no maintenance whatsoever. If a company was formed like 20 years ago, their directors are still the same on the registry. And like those people would have like left the company or like worse, like died.
Wow. And when that's about compliance, so that's regulations and keeping up to date. But what does this mean for fraud? All this kind of messy KYB.
Yeah. So like onboarding, at least in my opinion, and that's what the company's opinion here at AI Price is like, there's three parts to onboarding: compliance, risk, and fraud. We
Mhm.
call it the Holy Trinity as well. You cannot have a very good picture of a business until you do all three together. Now, let's take them one by one. Compliance are the things we talked about till now. Like, hey, they have to be in a country, they have to have the good people who are owners, who are not bankrupt, they should not be dealing with like risky industries, and they are in good standing, all good. A company can still have all of that but be masquerading and selling something else on their website. And they could be on their 10th page selling guns. The first page looks like a kid's toy store. How do you track those kinds of scamsters or like spam websites? The website could be a copy of another website altogether. Their online presence is actually completely different on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. Like they have like, they're claiming to have $1 million in revenue with no website traffic or zero followers on Instagram, which makes less sense. So that kind of fraud is like easy to find the tools that we have developed here, but I think it's essential to get a clearer picture. And risk is the next level. Like, okay, is there any adverse media on the company? Are they about to go bankrupt? Have their ratings been slowly decreasing from the last time we onboarded them? So you have to keep sort of an eye on the company, say, hey, like this is a good company that when we onboarded, but have they gone rogue since we onboarded? So that's sort of like the holy trinity that you have to verify. And in this day and age, these companies, I mean, I can use Lovable to build a website in 1 minute. I can use any of those tools out there like Stripe Atlas to register a company. And yeah, that's it. I have a valid business which has a LinkedIn page, which has a website, which is fully functional, by the way, with terms and conditions and whatnot. I have a registered company. It's, let's say it's in Estonia, for example, and I'm onboarding here in the US. It's hard for anybody to understand, hey, is this a real company or not?
Yeah, a lot of data sources. So, which is it's no longer onboarding is no longer just a bouncer at the door of a nightclub. It's sounds like it's complex. Orchestration of all these sources sounds like a tall task.
Yes, I know like orchestration is a word sometimes which is contested by a lot of people. Like, hey, do you need these many vendors? I call it a ballet. Like, okay, so you define what you want. Like when you are starting a new company, you don't need all kind of crazy tools. You need simple compliance tooling to begin with.
Mm.
But scale, you need all three. You need fraud, risk, and compliance because your fraud budget will keep on increasing otherwise. So yes, you need data ballet, but the good thing is there's AI to the rescue as well. There are these documents today that you can find on the 15th page of the document. The company mentions XYZ. but on their questionnaire, they mentioned ABC. These things don't add up. So before even asking for an expensive database, you can do those kinds of checks, which saves you cost.
Yeah.
B, helps you find these bad companies early on.
Mm.
So I would say like AI is somehow changing the game in a good way and a bad way. Bad way is because it's like fraud at scale, but good way, catching fraud at scale as well.
Yeah, fighting, fighting fire with fire we hear over and over again. Do you think that's the only option, especially maybe for fintechs, that data orchestration, using multiple tools, having best in class in different specialisms, the speed that the environment and the landscape's changing, that is kind of the only way to.
Right now, that seems to be the only way, Matt.
Mm,
I don't know any single company which uses just one data source today for a KYB, at least. They are working with at least 5 to 6 different databases plus AI on top. Um, Plus, they have their own risk rules internally built in. Yeah, we have seen it all. And we feel that, okay, a small company is spending so much building such a complex tool.
mm.
Uh, yeah, it's all for catching fraud at this point.
Yeah, and if we look across to KYC, it's a bit more of a mature environment. Especially on the fraudster side, it's just the game is incredible, and liveness checks are now questionable because they can imitate them. When it comes to KYB, how more advanced do you think the defenses will need to be? Because we've gone sign-ups no longer enough. We need to continuously monitor. So where do you see KYB needing to up the defense, looking across from lessons learned in KYC?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest problem with KYC that is still being solved is synthetic ID. Like, hey, this ID is it a real person's ID or not? The second is deep fakes, which is again with the advent of AI and like has always been there, to be honest, the deep fake problem. And the technology has evolved as well. So I would not say it's a cat and mouse game. You build something, they fight it, and you build something else. On the KYB side, I would say this has not been built in the first place. There's no defense that has been there, primarily because the process was slow. It was a 1 week long process, very
Mhm.
human involved, and good companies had a good system in place in terms of rules and regulations and policies to catch them early on. So fraud at scale was not possible if it would take you 1 week to onboard in a company. But today, everybody is like onboard in 20 seconds, onboard in 1 minute, pre-fill the information. Everything is like, hey, we'll give you a business account as soon as possible. And that is where I feel you need defenses, which does not exist today. And these defenses are, again, a synthetic business. Really, a company, or is it a shell company? Is this company formed like literally yesterday, or is there a historical association with it? Is this company good for my business? Because if I'm a Shopify or if I'm a big company, I also want to make sure that I work with good customers. Otherwise, I end up with a bunch of these fake fraud companies and they end up becoming like a fraud ring and sort of like
Mm,
if my reputation goes down, my good customers also leave the platform, which is something which is not acceptable today to these large companies. So it's not just for the reputation of their own company at this point, it's also business. If they get bad company, they're going to lose business. If I'm onboarding in 2 days and my competitors are onboarding in like 30 minutes, I'm going to lose business as well. So
yeah.
you have to keep up with the pace, but you have to build defenses as well.
Do you see similar tactics in the business side as the customer side? So account takeovers, mule businesses, all this kind of playbook. This is mirrored in business KYB, or is it a bit different?
No, I think we are seeing a lot of those come here as well. Account takeover, um, like mule accounts and all of those. It's coming here. It's not rampant yet because the onboarding fraud is increasing extremely fast. That's why, relative to that, those are pretty less. But I think those are also pretty high hitters. If you lose money, it would be in like in hundreds of thousands or in sometimes
Mhm.
$1 million as well. And onboarding could be at scale. You lose 10 to 20K, but you could lose to 100 companies in a particular day as well.
Yeah. Monitoring thousands of businesses, it sounds expensive. Is it possible to keep up without breaking the bank?
Yes. I mean, so That's what thesis we had AI prize. Like if you think of a typical uh, solution today, like let's say I'm a business trying to onboard merchants. I
Mhm.
have to get one vendor for KYC. I have to get one vendor for document verification. I have to get one vendor for my sanctions, PEPs, adverse media screening. I have to get one vendor for my website monitoring as well. I have to get one vendor for a database check. And these are usually per country as well. So I might need one for US, Canada. I might need one for Europe. If I am in Singapore and other countries, I might need a couple more there. I need another vendor for phone and email verification. I need one more vendor for IP fraud prevention. This is just the tip of the iceberg. You need a lot more. And obviously you need ChatGPT or like OpenAI APIs as well. This is the problem here is each one of these vendors have a platform fee, a monthly minimum, a support fee, a integration fee. And you know what? Like 2 years on the line, there's somebody new in the market which is better than them. So then you have to do a retest. So you have to put resources onto all of this. So number one, that's what like we think. Your problem is onboarding. Your problem is not vendors or like figuring out what's right for you. So that's step number one. Single platform, single contract, single problem and the solution. That's AI price. Number two, if I am asking for multiple different monthly minimums and what are in larger contracts, I end up overspending a lot. In fact, we have seen customers spend 2x, sometimes 3x on these monthly minimums and other things. So I think consolidation really helps in the case of KYB. And the last bit is case management. I think it all comes down to how effectively you are using these vendors. You can get 20 of them, but if you're not looking at the data in a consolidated view, you will never be able to find fraud. And then if you're not, you will be like, we need more data. Like because you didn't use the data you had properly, you think you need more data. We feel you don't need everything out. You don't need the ocean. You can make do with less data, but if it is tied together really, really well. So answer is yes, you don't need to break the bank to build a compliant, resistant KYB system. And I think there are tools out there now. AI is one of them.
When someone, let's do an example then, so kind of looking under the hood, looking at a playbook, so a big company, say a Stripe or a Revolut, enters a new country.
Hmm.
What's actually happening?
So I think first of all, they need to build a full compliance system. They need to hire a local MLRO or compliance officer, build a full system in place for analysts, write policies, find the right tools. Like I think Revolut entered India last year. They're still entering the country because of it's a big country, obviously. I think compliance would be the biggest challenge for them because if it's a big brand, they cannot have a headline saying XYZ company fined of $20 million for violating AML and other things. Or they don't want fraud as well. So I would say like it takes 6 to 8 months to just get to understand the policies, the right tools, and what do we need to do to be compliant in that country.
Mm.
And then you start the search for the vendors in the country, which could take another 5 to 6 months, sometimes even more. And once you have the vendors, the integration nightmare begins because of how does X vendor talks to Y. Typically, if I'm a large company, it would take at least anywhere between 12 months or 24 months for them to enter a new market if
Mm.
they are doing everything from compliance to transaction monitoring to underwriting all correctly.
Mm.
And note that systems that they have internally for one country usually do not scale to many of the other countries unless you have a global first mindset in the first place. So some companies do have that and they want to build in. But every time we go to a customer or a potential prospect and we talk about, hey, we have KYB, we get a call with that prospect. So there is appetite in the market to learn, like, hey, what solutions do you have? They're interested.
And can technology help us here, or is it a lot of manual hours to get this all set up? Because surely there's a lot of warning signs, right? If you go into a new country, you're talking about finding vendors. How do you know if they're any good? What are the warning signs?
Yeah, I mean, I think you raise a good point, and you'll see something from AI Prize later this year. It's for community, for not for like the profit here. We are building the ultimate KYB handbook, and that's like something we feel should have existed, but
Hmm.
is there. We feel that before entering a country, there should be a clear guidance on how to verify a company in that country. What information should I be collecting from them? So to your original question, can technology help here? I think more than technology, a clear policy guideline can help. First of all, to understand what's the right one. And in terms of technology, I think yes, to a lot extent, it's possible that you use technology to improve or speed up the onboarding process or if
Mm.
new vendors, etc. But I would always be wary of compliance is that one thing where you don't want to move extremely quickly as well. Like you want to make sure you are like slowly ramping up and not going at it with, oh, we'll figure it out on the way. Like I think that's not how compliance works.
Yeah. And when we talk about technology, there's a lot of noise around AI. And of course, there's a lot of companies doing good things with AI and KYB, some companies not doing such great things. Do you see it's actually solving problems
I think
and
so.
the marketing fluff in some areas? But what's hype? What's reality?
Okay. So what is hype is here's an AI compliance analyst. Doesn't work. It can never work unless a lot of things like once these models need to evolve a lot. They hallucinate. There's a lot of issues with them. What works is they can be good co-pilots or good AI agents. Today, if you are like trying to book a flight, will you trust an AI agent to book a flight for you from US to Mexico? Probably not. It's gonna be a $15 round trip. You will like, hey, you do the research for me, but I will take the decision at the end of the day. Compliance is exactly high stakes. There is no money involved, but there is reputation, there is fines, there's other things involved. So where AI agents can come in is, hey, here's the research that I usually do on my entity before approving or rejecting them.
Hmm.
Can you help me speed up that kind of research? So AI agents which do pinpointed single tasks. Go understand bad things about this company. Go understand these 20 documents about these company. Go figure out if the AML hit is a true positive or a false positive. Go figure out if a transaction monitoring hit is a true positive or a false positive. So essentially those individual tasks can be solved. And we are seeing customers save time and money both with them. Because if you had like 10 analysts and they all had different capabilities with AI, they became equally capable, if
Yeah.
not exactly the same. So, number one, your best and your worst analysts are now almost at par, which is business class 101. Amazing for you. What I think is the future from 3 to 5 years from now is um, these AI agents on individual tasks, there might be an orchestrator of an AI agents at the top, again, an orchestration word,
Yeah.
but anything which is manual, which is at this at this point, 80% of KYB is manual. I think that will go down to 10% or something.
Mm.
The decision will still be human based if it's a high risk company or high risk business, but we are seeing that manual effort will be very, very low. And these will be high quality decisions. So it's not just fluff, there is hype, but I would be aware of it's like those AI SDRs. So, hey, get a meeting booked with an AI agent. Like it doesn't work. That never works. Otherwise, I would have plenty of those.
Yeah. Do you think with the AI, generative AI on the fraudster side becoming so good, and of course the fight back will be as strong, that it's going to get so minute that humans aren't able to differentiate between good and bad? To say, for example, the risk score goes down if you're doing between 0 and 1. If a risk score gets to like 10 decimal places. Do you see where I'm going? Because it's getting so sophisticated and they're fighting each other
Mm.
so well that the margin gets smaller and smaller that humans can't be involved. Is that a fear? Does that make sense?
It, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how you are envisioning this. You're saying that the margin becomes so small that we are unaware what is good versus what is bad.
Human will not be able to differentiate.
Okay. I mean, at least from where I sit, I'm not seeing that. Human are still in the driver's seat, and they will continue to be in the driver's seat. I think at the end of the day, it's a judgment call when it comes that close.
Mm.
And would I trust a human judgment over AIs today? I would say 100%.
Yeah.
Will that change in the future? I mean, I don't know, depending on how these models evolve. If I can trust an AI model every single time with the way I trust a human model or a human, I think then the game changes. But as
Mm.
I mentioned to you, I think I still feel AI agents will do the research and humans will be the decision makers, at least for the long term in compliance. And also note that in compliance, you need a rule change. You cannot allow an AI agent to make a decision on your behalf. If
Mm.
others will keep asking, like, hey, this is not possible, like, you have to make sure it's humans, you will be fine, I guess.
Yeah, that is fair. That is fair, and it's a big topic at the moment. Why do you think, or do you think, kind of fraud risk communities are exploding right now?
I think they are. And I think it's good for the industry. So I think number one, the industry is expanding like crazy. If you think about the uses of KYB, it's not just fintechs and FIs and crypto. There is a whole host of industries which do it. Marketplaces, they do trust and safety. They have to verify who their third party is. Third party risk management, like TPRM, that's a massive vertical. Every single like company in the US wants to know who their suppliers are outside of the US. Is it
Mm.
from Vietnam, Philippines? Are they sanctioned? Geopolitics come into the picture as well. Because if you are more global company, initially it was just US and China. So it was easy to verify the companies in China and then get the sources first in the US. Now it is China, Mexico, Brazil, India, Vietnam, Philippines. You have like a whole supply chain, which is very, very global. So the use cases is exploding. You have compliance put in at every single place. So I think you have new kinds of fraud, new kinds of threats every single vertical. That's why
Mm.
these new WhatsApp communities or Slack communities or even just like conferences are thriving. Number
Mm.
one, it's good. Also, if you see the number of compliance officers themselves in the US, they have increased by a lot. If you just do LinkedIn, like from 10 years ago, it's probably like at a 15 to 20% CAGR. That's the increment in I think there's probably 3x or 4x in the past years. It's in the past like 6 years.
Crazy, right? And so, as a founder yourself, how are you kind of evolving in the space? How are you able to kind of cut through the noise? Because with a lot of community and good things, but there's a lot of noise as well. How do you cut through that?
Very good question. I think there's a lot of players in the space, which is good and bad. Good
Mm.
because if you have a specific use case, you have a vendor for that. Bad because it's hard to find them because they all look the same from a distance. So at AI Price, I think that's where we are trying to like we spent a lot of time last year building into one niche and one niche only. Global KYB. It's a massive market. I think it's one of the biggest markets out there, which is very greenfield, untouched. We want to be known as the provider, the first provider which comes to your mind if you think of global KYB. Uh, what does that involve? I think obviously, yes, conferences, marketing, a lot of those things, but also it's a problem which is unsolved. So technology needs to prove that you're able to solve this problem. We are trying to build resources on not just helping our customers, but people in the ecosystem on how to actually verify the entities globally. And there is a lot of these AI agents. If you just look for AI that are compliant, you'll probably find hundreds of them. There's
Yeah.
20 in each country at this point. I think there is business to be made there for sure. That's why there's so many of them today, and all of them have funding, $3 to $5 million, sometimes even more. So there is market there. Who will win that market is still to be seen. We
Hmm.
feel that customers don't want just another AI agent. They want a platform with AI agents. And that's the benefit of AI Price as a platform. So you're not just buying into an AI agent tooling, you're buying into a decision which is supported by AI. So that's how we are pitching our solution. There's no company out there which is doing what we are doing today.
Mm.
Obviously, a lot of KYC companies, there's a lot of AI agents, there's a lot of KYB companies per country, but if you look at a global KYB solution, you will not find many.
But hopefully you have first movers advantage. Tanya, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Before we let you go, yeah, where can people keep up with what you're doing? Of course, how AI Prize is getting on.
I think the best way is please follow us on LinkedIn. We post a lot of updates there, and subscribe to our newsletter on our website as well. AI priced.
Perfect. And last question, what are you concerned about in the space this year? And what are you excited about?
I think excited about is I think I like finding fraud. So I think I want to see what kind of new fraud happens this year. Last
Okay.
year we found some very crazy frauds on when we do a KYB. So whenever customers come and talk about, oh, we had this fraud, I'm like, wow, like fraudsters are so evolved at this point. So exciting to every day go to work and figure out, okay, what's the new kind of fraud I'm fighting today. I think what's worrying is I think the data quality, I think it's not improving at the pace with which we expect it to. But what I mean by that is like you had the US Transparency Act 2024, where every single company had to have a UBO or a beneficial owner to the government registered. But I think it got delayed by 1 year, and I think it's getting delayed by one more year probably. So I think unless countries enforce these laws, like we cannot do anything. So in that sense, I'm a little like concerned, like how that's why we are trying to figure out how can we get more data from different places. But the goal is governments have a lot of power in this play. And we are hoping that this changes this year. More countries putting in effort into building these good databases.
But keep an eye out for both. I mean, data quality has been an issue since data has been around, but the time will tell. Chaitanya, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you so much.
And to listeners, until next time.
Until next time.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.